International law can be ignored when violations happen in Palestine. Why is it suddenly sacred when it comes to Greenland?
As US President Donald Trump reiterates his intent to seize Greenland, Western leaders are speaking the language of international law again. Sovereignty, territorial integrity, the right of people to decide their future. Several European NATO members have even deployed troops to Greenland at Denmark's request, saying they're here to uphold international law and deter escalation in the Arctic.
Greenland belongs to its people, so it's up to Denmark and Greenland, and only to them, to decide on matters that are concerning Denmark and Greenland.
But critics say this sudden respect for the rulebook raises uncomfortable questions.
Where was this commitment when Palestine's Gaza was being decimated by Israel? Where was international law when Israeli forces intercepted humanitarian flotillas in international waters? Legal experts say those actions violated both international humanitarian law and maritime law. Yet, no EU troops were deployed and no sanctions enforced. During Israel's genocidal war in Gaza, Israeli forces illegally detained doctors, forcibly disappeared civilians, and killed hundreds of journalists, often alongside their families. Human rights groups documented mass civilian casualties, the repeated bombing of hospitals, the blocking of humanitarian aid, and the use of starvation as a weapon. All of it broadcast and documented live for the world to witness. International law is clear on the violations Israel committed. These acts are strictly prohibited, but Western governments seemed unfazed. Germany continued supplying weapons to Tel Aviv. The UK offered political cover. France squirmed on the fence and hedged. Other European nations hid behind words like complexity and security concerns and self-defense. The institutions meant to enforce international law largely stood aside.
The rhetoric from Western officials on Gaza starkly contrasts the words we're now hearing from those very same officials about Greenland.
I think it is important that we acknowledge the pain and the suffering of the Israeli people and the families that lost relatives or where relatives are hostages. It was important and very good that so many leaders traveled to Israel to listen to Israel, but also to speak very clearly on the need to exerting the right of self-defense, to do this in line with international law.
International law is becoming conditional.
If we don't do it, Russia or China will take over Greenland.
Analysts argue international law is enforced when it protects the strategic and economic interests of those equipped to enforce it, and ignored when it gets in the way. Greenland sits on vast reserves of rare earth minerals and fossil fuels. It occupies a strategic Arctic position as melting ice caused by the climate crisis opens up new trade routes and military corridors. Gaza, meanwhile, holds offshore gas reserves, offers critical energy routes, and has become a testing ground for Israeli weapons and surveillance systems, a lucrative global industry. Israel's success in killing thousands of Palestinians and flattening Gaza has fueled demand for its military technology while reinforcing a geopolitical order aligned with Western interests.
So, the difference between Gaza and Greenland, critics argue, is not principle, it's power.
Y Gaza es simplemente un experimento de los mega ricos tratando de demostrarle a todos los pueblos del mundo cómo se le responde a una rebeldía. Y esa perspectiva de barbarie obviamente mata el multilateralismo para que se encuentren las naciones. Mata la idea de una democracia global, mata toda la institucionalidad internacional.
Gaza has exposed what happens when international law is applied selectively. It stops being a universal law. It becomes a strategic tool.
For Palestinians, international law was buried in Gaza beneath the rubble. For Greenland, these laws are suddenly binding. And that's the contradiction the world is now being forced to confront.